I've started the webinar.
Yeah, please.
Ravi, shall I start? Or shall we give some time for the participants to join in? Ravi, shall I start? You're on mute.
We can start. Less participation, but we can start.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. It's very good to see all of you on a Saturday morning. We know that last week there were some rains in different parts of Oman. So we are hoping the weather to get cooler and nicer as the days go by. So here we are with another CPE event, which is on big data and data privacy. Earlier, if we talk about 15 to 20 years back, the data, the traditional data was limited because social media, online transactions, e-commerce, etc. was not in that much of use. And it was easy to store, process, and protect the data due to the small volume and structured format. But day by day, technology evolved and new services got introduced, due to which the data generation increased, which led to the development of many techniques that can be used to store and process this amount of data. Big data is a technology that is used to analyze and extract the information from large and complex data sets. So this can be applied in various fields like e-commerce, banking, data mining, cloud computing, finance, marketing, and you name it. So it is fast growing field with exciting opportunities. That means big data, there comes big opportunities, but also big threats and challenges because of the volume and variety of data we are dealing with, and security. So privacy of data is one of them. So experts in this field who would be guiding us, giving us more information on big data and data privacy. So before we go into the details of the event, may I request CA Ravi Deora, Chairman of Muscat ICAI chapter, to formally welcome all the audience and speakers and the guests. Over to you, Ravi.
Thank you, Sangeeta ji. Respected Chief Guest, Mr. Abdul Razak Al-Baluchi. Guest of Honor, CA Praful Hazir ji. Speaker for the day, David Jackham and Anand Deshpande ji. My senior and my friends. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all in today's virtual event on big data and data privacy. Both the topics are current and will be the future as well. Swiggy has used the big data extensively and come up with as a renowned brand for food and delivery system in short span of time. We are thankful to Mr. David Jackham to accept our request for today's event. When the data is big, risks also become very big. So more particularly when money or credit card is involved. So we have our next speaker, Mr. Anand Deshpande from MasterCard to help us with the tips on the data protection and data privacy. I'm sure our members will take benefit of it. Further, we are proud to say that ICAI will be the host for upcoming World Congress of Accountants in November 2022. ICAI Muscat chapter wholeheartedly supports it. The event preparations are going on under the leadership of our past president, Praful Chhajerji, who is also with us today to inaugurate the promotional video of World Congress of Accountants prepared by ICAI Muscat chapter. We urge all to support the event by nominating maximum delegates and in the form of sponsorship for the event and get benefit of this world-class opportunity. Before I conclude, there are a few announcements which I want to share with you. We request all members to renew their membership if they have not renewed that. Also to contribute to our newsletters, monthly newsletters in the form of articles and columns. We also look forward to your support to use the job portal page to publish any vacancy you have for our members and get benefit of it. We are also trying hard with our sponsors to allow with the physical events and may plan Diwali event as the first physical event, which will be announced shortly. Our upcoming events includes XBRL and the leadership thoughts in the month of November. We are coming up with many more events in future, and we are also planning for international conference, maybe in first week of January 2022, but details will be announced shortly. Thank you for your support and wish you all a happy learning. Over to you, Sangeeta ji.
Thank you, Ravi, for all the details and formally welcome all of us. Now, may I request CA Jim Joseph to kindly welcome and introduce our chief guest, Mr. Abdul Razak.
Thank you, Sangeeta ji. Mr. Abdul Razak Al-Balushi is the CFO of Ooredoo Oman. He's having more than 30 years experience in various industries like banking, oil and gas, shipping, business consultancy, commodity trading, and of course, telecommunication industry. He joined Ooredoo in 2016, and he led a number of major projects in business process improvement and customer engagement and helped Ooredoo through its digital transformation journey. Al-Balushi believes that new age CFOs are not just conventional finance and accounts experts, but have a broad mindset. And today, they are economists, commercialists, technologists, and strategists necessary to remain close to highly volatile market activities and mitigate the risk against any business disruption. Al-Balushi was named as one of the region's top CFOs by New Age Finance and Accounting newspaper. He holds an MBA from UK. He is also a certified treasury and finance professional, an accredited financial analyst, and a chartered economist. In addition, he holds a certificate in accounting, banking, and trade. With this small introduction, let me welcome Mr. Abdul Razak Al-Balushi to address the gathering. Please, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your introduction. Many thanks to ICAI for inviting me in this important session to discuss. I think it's a very key topic. Big data is a topic of this era, and I'm honored to be part of this interesting discussion and of this topic. I think this big data, actually, I would say it's a very old, since human was created. Actually, it is in his DNA. Human being always has the curiosity of knowing everything. So basically knowing about data, and this data extraction, started in different form of development from ages and ages, from newspaper, from radios, from then now we have reached to a technology. So it's become a part of our DNA and curiosity to know everything. Actually, that's how we react and take necessary action to whatever objective is like to be. Actually, I'd also like to say that there's a nice, very, very beautiful quote from William Edwards Demings. He is the electrical engineer and data scientist in 90s. He said, without data, you are just another person with an opinion. That's mean, without insight into data, people make decisions based on instinct and speculation or prevent theories. Yeah. So people remain at the risk of acting or become biased or give a false assumptions. Yeah. So he drives a culture of basically data-driven decision making, actually, which involves in collecting data, performing analysis, and basing decision on insights derived from that analysis. So, which that provides also more transparency, actually, because transparency is the key part of the data, actually. So decision will be based on these logics, which will determine the outcome and transparency, and give you some stronger evidence to support your decision as well, actually. So now in these days, I suggest the companies or the organization, the corporate organization, must find practical way to deal with this big data to stay competitive as well, and to find new ways to capture and analyze growing amounts of information we are having about customer products and services. Data is becoming increasingly complex because of the way it is structured and unstructured ways, and it's become so massive. So it's become difficult also to analyze and extract as well. Now, the new source of the data basically comes from many new smart technology sources, actually. So meeting these changes in business requirement demands the right information at the right time. I will just try to, because it is a so big topic, if I capture different industry, it will never end. Big data is a quite big topic. So I'll start from my telecom perspective. So if you just take a smartphone, if you just take a smartphone, which basically generate big data, today every smartphone generates very big data. There are now maybe more than 15 billion mobile devices now operating in worldwide. Imagine 15 billion of mobile. And this number is going to be, I think, going to increase roughly around 18 to 19 billion by 2025. So just imagine the number of data in each mobile and its massive capacity. And if you take the insight of one mobile, you see in every minute we are sending emails, we are working on social media, SMS, voice calls. So all these data are massive. Now globally, all the children's, teens, adults, they use in massive quantities these medias being used on daily basis. So daily there is a daily data consumed, is massive data being consumed, either through computers as well, through online listening music, playing video games, you name it. The famous TikTok now is one of the new trends. WhatsApp, chatting. So just imagine the massive information in these apps involved. So now for technology has to help us on how to basically extract all the data and analyze these data, actually. So if you for us actually for technology, for telecom, it's a quite challenging, actually, to extract the behavior of each smartphone or each customer, because every text, every search, every phone call, everything, it generates a data, more than 70 gigabytes of data. So imagine if you multiply this 70 gigabytes into 50 billion devices, it's massive. It's exabytes. You know, information is really a challenge now. So, but as well, they said you have information, you are more powerful actually. So it is, the big data is also a key. Again, the storage of these data is again becoming a challenge as well. So you have to find a source to also basically store all these data as well. So it's a quite complicated and quite massive exercise actually, and different. If you compare also, I'm just talking about telecom. Yeah, for telecom, basically we focus on the churn of the customer. Yeah, we try to analyze why the customer is churning, and we analyze the customer experience. Yeah, so there's a massive data behind it, and we see the behavior. Why is moving to another operator? Why is the churn is so high? Why the customer experience, we have some challenges. So it is a quite challenging, and so, but again, we always try to find solutions as well. So just imagine, it's only in the telecom this much massive data is, yeah. If you take healthcare industry itself is a tremendous potential of data is there as well. Then you have the entertainment industry, you have new streaming, Netflix, Amazon, you name it. Yeah, so you can see the massive data in every industry. You have retail as well. Yeah, retail itself is another big market as well. Then you also have insurance, so you name it. So data is in every industry, is become very important. Yeah. So for telecom, it is also important thing now. Now in early days in 2000s, in 2001, I think we started to also working on this data generation. We used to use SQL, ETL technologies, yeah. But now we started using new technology. Mainly, Adobe is one of the big names which most of the telecom industry use them. Actually, using Adobe enable telecom companies to analyze bigger data to produce the basically better performance as well. So how this Adobe works actually? So basically, Adobe is linked in such a complicated way. It goes to our data source, which is CRM, ERP, billing data, subscriber data, product catalog, network data. And then it links online, chat, social media. It talks with the merchant listing. So it's so complex. So it has to respect all these integrations. It has to happen. Also, we have analysis tools like use the Oracle or use IBM or SaaS. You know, there are different platform of analysis. So you need to analyze your proactive customer experiences as well. So we have also customer scorecards. We have infrastructures, bandwidth allocation, product development. So there are a lot of technology jargons. I don't remember actually, but it is quite complex. It's not easy to extract. So it's quite challenging. But I think with Adobe advanced upgrades and new solutions, it's becoming more actually easy to get all these information extracted, and which help us to take the right decision and create the right product. In our pricing strategy also, it helps us a lot. So I think it is quite important. Sometimes we need to also invest in highly to move from different legacy tools to new additional tools as well. So to me, it's big data is very important area, not only for the telecom industry, it's for all the industry, because this is the future. All our decisions, all our future actions will be based on these information. When you have the right information, when you have the right, quality of the information, I think then you have the, competitive advantages. You have a lot of other, you will be ahead of the game as well. Yeah. So building data, big data and analysis will increase your capabilities as well. Yeah, which will help you also, give you some benefit in your investments in other areas as well. So for us also, because for telco, we have a big challenge. The trend of revenue is also basically is moving down now. So we have to find and search for different stream of revenues as well. Now, to do that, we need massive information as well. Yeah, but again, we are also trying to utilize the product of ICT as well, because ICT is another area which also carries massive data issues as well. One of the key projects we had is also the smart metering. Actually, Ooredoo actually conducted in Oman. We have now, I think we did it in Musandam. We are also doing it in Muscat. So master metering will be one of the key projects for a sort of a ICT project for Ooredoo. So there is a way to find. So basically, the revenue stream will change. So you can see how data is changing your revenue also structure as well. So we are moving from the traditional revenue to ICT type of revenue. Also, the data now is the key now. Earlier, we used to have voice, SMS, and now everything is turning into data actually. So we need to now focus on the data. So data, to convert this data, selling the data, and leveraging on this data. We want to create also innovative products. So you can see the scape, the shape of the industry is also changing. But if you don't have these proper data, I think you then will face some challenges. So I think big data is key for all the organization. I always encourage, to invest in big data, because it was going to help in future, not only the industry, it will help the community, it will help the economy, it will help everything, and it will give you the right investment and right solutions actually in the future. It's a big topic. Actually, it has no end. So I think I need to stop somewhere. So I think for telco, I think it's a monetization. For us, it's a monetization trigger. So we will keep on leveraging on this data. I suggest the rest industry do the same as well. So I just stop here. If you have any Q&As or anything you would like to clarify, I'm happy to answer your queries. I hope I give you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
It's a huge topic. It's
yes.
Where to start, what to say actually.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for laying the platform for this event. I think we have heard a lot from different aspects of this big data from you. And also to start with the words of Mr. Edward, and then into the structured, unstructured, and complex data. And even we have got a great insight from the telecom industry. I think it was a great benefit to all of us in having you with us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And now we have among us our past president of ICAI, CA Prafulla Chachetji, to formally welcome and introduce CA Prafulla ji. May I request Shilpa Pavani to come forward. Thank you.
CA Sangeeta. It's my honor and privilege to introduce a man who doesn't need any introduction, but I'll do my duty. CA Prafulla Chajit is a member of IFAC, EAO Development and Advisory Group for the term 2021-23, nominated by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, ICAI. Mr. Chajit is a fellow member of ICAI and holds an additional qualification in law. CA Chajit is the past president of ICAI in 2019 and 20 and was elected as a Central Council member for the term 2019 and 22 to 22. He is also the chairman of the Executive Committee of the World Congress of Accountants 2022 to be held in Mumbai, India in November 2022. CA Chajit is also a board member of the Confederation of Asia and Pacific Accountants and was previously an observer at the IFAC board. He's also represented ICAI at various national and international organizations as a board member of the South Asia Federation of Accountants and the Council of Integrated Reporting Council. He is currently a member of the board for various organizations in India. I welcome you, sir, and we are really honored and proud that you took out the time to join us. Welcome back to the Muscat chapter. Request you to say a few words and honor us with your presence.
Thank you so much, Shilpa ji, for, I am also one of the chartered accountant like all of you, and it has been your blessing, support of all the members that I could reach to this particular position. But nevertheless, each one of you is also contributing for the cause of the profession. And I always say, especially the overseas members who have left this particular country for making career into various things, and still they are attached to our own alma mater, that is the ICAI, and I think that is the great thing. So a lot of compliments to the entire team of the Muscat chapter under able leadership of Ravi ji. He is one person who is continuously, in touch with not only with me, but, various people at the ICAI level. And he is full of energy. Sir, we want to do this, we want to do that, and all those things. So before I could reach him, he always reaches to us. And I think that entire credit goes to the entire team, Sanjeev, Jim, Shilpa, and today's, CP event under leadership of Sangeeta ji, and so many people behind the scene also, other committee members. Thank you so much for organizing this particular event. And when I was just listening to our chief guest, he himself is a CFO, but he was talking about the big data and data privacy kind of thing. And I think that shows the, changing trend about the accounting profession also, that if you want to be relevant in times to come, we must be, understanding various things. And therefore, today's webinar is very, very important. Now, coming to the World Congress of Accountants, let me tell for the benefit of all the members, friends, like we have the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, like that globally, there are about from 130 countries and 175 organizations. We have the apex body, which is called as the International Federation of Accountants, popularly known as the IFAC, which is having headquarters at the New York, and that spearheads the entire accounting profession across the globe. So this particular IFAC, every 4 years, they do have this World Congress of Accountants, which is popularly known as the Olympics of Accounts, because that is the one global event where everybody tries to attend that particular thing, and some country is hosting that particular event. And I am thankful that IFAC has considered the request from the ICAI, and in the history of the ICAI, for the first time in the year 2022, we are going to host this World Congress. Now it is not the ICAI event. I think that event belongs to all of us equally. And therefore, thanks to Ravi that he has invited me today for this particular, event. Through all of you, I will make a request to every participant that, friends, as I said, this event belongs to all of us equally, and everybody must contribute in whatever best manner So especially the overseas chapters, I will be requiring a lot of help in terms of registration, sponsorship, and at the from my side, rather the ICAI side, we can promise you the world-class experience of attending this event, because such events happens once in a lifetime, and especially for the host country. So I can assure you, we have dedicated secretariat already at our BKC office in Mumbai. The entire one floor has been dedicated. There are a number of people who are working already on this particular project. Venue is going to be the again world class. That is Geo Convention Center at BKC, promoted by the Reliance Group. So that is going to be our venue, and we are expecting 4,000 to 5,000, 6,000 people physically attending, and also some of them will be virtually attending. So a lot of expectations. As time goes, I'll keep on coming in between your CP events, making the request for these various support kind of thing. One more thing, why you should be attending and why you should be bringing your friends to India. Again, that is I always say, especially for the overseas member, wherever you go, but fir bhi dil hai Hindustani. So that will provide you an opportunity to come back to India with your friends, relatives, and also to the ICAI people also, and bring some of your friends so we can also host them. How India is really, really good country. So that is the expectations. I understand Ravi and his entire team has made some videos also, which is going to be launched today. So I'm very, very thankful to the entire team who has contributed individually. For the want of time, I'm not taking everybody's name, but each and every person's contribution does really matter. And special thanks to each one of you. Look forward for your continuous support for the cause of the profession. Before I close, this event is happening just a couple of days before the very important festival for all of us, Diwali. And please accept my best wishes to you and your family members for having a very bright, colorful Diwali, and may God bless each one of you with the lot of happiness, and every wish may come true. So Raviji, may I request, I believe you have made one very good video. So Sangeeta ji, Ravi ji, and maybe somebody who has created that video may play that video, or if you want to speak before that, but thank you very much for opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We'll come to that for inauguration thought process now.
Okay.
The next slides. Sangeeta ji.
Yeah. Thank you, Prafulla ji, for giving a background for the World Congress of Accountants. And it was great to know the details of it. It's really very helpful for all of us. And yes, so here we are with a great surprise that we have for today. And to unfold this excitement for all of us, may I request CA Gaurav Kapoor to kindly say a few words about this, and then we'll take it forward.
Thank you, Sangeeta ji, and good morning, everyone. Actually, Prafulla ji already laid down the whole background, and whatever I had prepared is already said, but I'll just say a few more words. As many of you might know, this is an event that happens every 4 years, like any World Cup or Olympics. So therefore, it is called as Olympics of the accountancy profession. In India, this is happening for the first time, and it's next year from 18th to 21st of November. Each and every member of the Muscat chapter is expected to contribute and encourage relevant people across the globe to attend this key event. Muscat chapter will be launching a series of promotional activities from now till the event, and we are happy to seek suggestions from the members. Members can share their suggestions at the chapter email ID, muscat@icai.org. As I said, today we are launching the first series of this promotional activities in the form of a short video. The video will be later available in various platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn IDs, and of the Muscat chapter. Members are requested to share it with the wider community and the groups that they have in their personal capacities as well. So, and finally not taking much time. And what better it could be to have one of the chairman or the chairman of the executive committee of the World Congress of Accountants itself here with us today to give this launching of the professional promotional video. Sir, I hope when you see this video, what you just said, it comes true. Fir bhi dil hai Hindustani.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you so much for all your efforts and your team members, Sangeeta and you. I am quite sure, this is going to be a very important, and I think you are the first chapter of all these chapters who have come out with this exclusive kind of thing. So may I request you to play it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
ICAI Muscat chapter proudly supports World Congress of Accountants.
World Congress of Accountants, popularly known as Olympics of Accountancy Profession, is held every 4 years under the banner of International Federation of Accountants, worldwide organization for accounting profession.
This would be the first time ever that India would be hosting this prestigious event.
It is a proud moment, not only for the accounting fraternity in India, but for the fraternity in South Asia, as India is the first country among the South Asian countries to hold the World Congress.
ICAI has achieved recognition as a premier accounting body in India. Today, it is one of the largest accounting bodies in the world.
World Congress of Accountants is the most prestigious global event of professional accountants, wherein 6,000 delegates from 130 member countries of IFAC will exchange their views with other accounting and finance professionals around the world.
On international front, ICAI is represented at International Federation of Accountants, Confederation of Asian and Pacific Accountants, Chartered Accountant Worldwide, and South Asian Federation of Accountants.
We will get an opportunity to hear to world-class speakers and leaders of finance and business community and interact with the accounting and finance professional from all around the world and debate the current issues and trends in the profession.
Speakers include international trendsetters, accounting bodies, accounting firms, regulators, and commerce groups.
India, a land of infinite opportunity.
India is amongst the fastest growing world economies. It is the digital capabilities hub of the world with around 75% of the global digital talent present in India. India, a country of the youth, is home to about 20,000 startups with about 1,400 beginning operations every year.
India has something to offer to everyone who is visiting India, be it tourism, investment, business, or service.
You name it, India has it.
Mumbai is the financial capital of the country and home to many big financial and corporate institutions.
Mumbai is also the base of Indian film industry, very well known as Bollywood, the city that never sleeps, the city of dreams, and the city of 7 islands are few of the names used to describe the wonderful city of Mumbai. Mumbai attracts the highest number of foreign tourists and is one of the most preferred tourist destinations in India.
The world's leading accounting and finance professionals are coming to Mumbai. Let's join together to enrich yourself of this world-class opportunity.
ICAI വേണ്ടി എല്ലാവരെയും മുംബൈയിലേക്ക് സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യും.
મુંબઈમાં તમારું સ્વાગત છે.
જી આયામી.
मुंबईर आघोषितो हिसाब शास्त्रेर ऑलिम्पिक्से शोभाय के स्वागतो.
काय मग येणार ना नक्की? இந்த நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம்.
आंजो स्वागत है वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ अकाउंटेंट्स में.
भारत में आपका स्वागत है.
Welcome to Olympics of Accountancy Profession, Mumbai. पधारो मारे देश.
Just superb, sir. Just superb. Many compliments to each one of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir, for supporting us. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah. Sangeeta, over to you, Sangeeta.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank
Just
you.
Sangeetaji, one request. May I
Yes.
request all of you to, make this viral on the LinkedIn, Facebooks and everywhere. Tag me also, and even from my side also, I will tag at the ICAI and everybody. This is really fantastic thing which you have done. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Prafullaji. And you have the major task. So all the best and Amin to all your wishes.
And we are there with you, sir.
Thank you so much for all that motivation and even to make this viral. And it was a great thing to hear that, all our efforts have paid off. Yes, Gauravji, he was the main man behind happening this, to make this video happen this way. Yeah.
It was all of you, each one of you helping me in different ways. So thanks to everyone.
Thank you. So now we will proceed with our event. So just to remind that the topic for today's event is big data and data privacy. Coming back to this, may I request CA Sajeev Surendran, Vice Chairman of Muscat ICAI chapter, to formally welcome and introduce Mr. David Zakam from Swiggy.
Thank you, Sangeeta-ji. A very good morning to you all. Mr. David Zakam is a Vice President and Head of Analytics at Swiggy. He has 18 years of experience in analytics and data science. Swiggy's hyper-local, time-critical business heavily depends on data decisions. David's team's working on providing better customer service and experience. David is also working on democratizing analytics, ensuring that the hundreds of business, products, and technical team members are trained and enabled to perform their own analysis. Before Swiggy, David was at Muscat. He was consulted at 23 companies across 9 verticals, led analytical teams over 450 people, and managed senior client relationships in Europe and US. Interestingly, he started his career as a scientist, writing algorithms to identify drugs using computers. He is a graduate of IIT Delhi and IIM Kolkata. Outside of analytics, his interests are on creative side and include playing drums, singing, sports, and learning new languages. With this, we welcome you, David Zakam, for the event. Thank you so much. Over to Sangeeta-ji.
Thank you, Sajeevji, for formally introducing Mr. David Zakam. So just to give a background and to let everyone know that today's speaker, Mr. David Zakam, would be covering the topics on introduction of big data, data engineering, data science and analytics, use of analytics in detecting frauds, with few of the examples. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope you can hear and see me properly.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
And I'm just going to share my screen as well. Just if you can confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. As sir mentioned, big data itself is a big topic. So I just want to take some time to make this simple. And I also want to stress on the fact that big data by itself is not the end. The end is actually using that big data to make big decisions. So that is actually the important thing. So how do we do this journey from big data to big decisions is what I'm going to be talking about today. As Sangeeta mentioned the agenda for today, we'll just start off very simple. What is big data? What are the different kinds of teams that work on big data? And I am part of data science and analytics. So I'll explain a little bit of what data science and analytics is. And I thought because all of the audience seems to be CAs, so maybe a little bit of example in how analytics can help in things like audit and fraud detection, right? Just one example of that, it's called the case of the missing pizzas, okay? Stay tuned for that. And after that, I have a few other examples of how analytics is used at Swiggy. And then if we have time, we can do a question and answers as well. So let's jump into the first part. What is big data, right? This is like the official definition. The simple definition is anything where the data is too complex to process using regular methods. Okay, that's pretty much what data is. Big data is. There are so too complex to process. What do you mean by too complex to process? Right? There are three things that people talk about when you talk about big data. So first is volume, which is just the size of the information that you have. Just as an example, right? Swiggy captures literally everything that people do on the app, and like tens of millions of customers doing things on the app. So every day we capture 2 billion events. Okay, 2 billion events. It's a big, large amount of information. And so in our laptops, we have gigabytes. After 1,000 gigabytes is a terabyte, and 1,000 terabytes is a petabyte. So Swiggy operates in the scale of multiple petabytes of volume. Of course, that kind of information, if I need to ask some information of it and I need responses in seconds, right? Of course, you need technologies which enable that kind of volume to be processed. Okay, that is just volume part of it. The second part is velocity. Velocity is, like you might know, the speed at which data comes. The point there is many times the data is available, let's say the next day or 2 days later. And for many use cases, it becomes not very useful to have that information come the next day. Just as an example again, right? At Swiggy, if it rains, the drivers, because they all got wet, right? They log off, and we don't have enough drivers to actually deliver the food. So now the signal that it's raining in a particular location needs to come to the application like almost instantly. And then we can actually say, hey, drivers, we'll give you a little bit more money if you don't log off, right? That information needs to come in real time, which is immediately within seconds of the rain starting. We have to be aware of that. And that information is flowing like water from a tap, right? At high speed, like in real time. So that is what velocity means. So we have data coming in real time. That also requires a set of technologies which need to be processed. And the third thing is variety. Variety is the different kinds of data. Many times, right? When we talk about data, we're like we talk about simple things like whether an order was placed, what were the items in that order, what's the value of the order, things like that. So all of this is numbers pretty much most of the time. But today we have things like text. There's a chat transcript which is stored. There are pictures which are stored. There are videos which are stored. So the different varieties of data that is there also require new kinds of technologies to actually process them. So any kind of technologies which requires which has any of these three problems, volume, velocity, or variety. So that is what we need. Any place where this is a problem, right? We need some kind of big data to process it. Okay, and there are three teams that work on big data: data engineering, analytics, and data science. First, what is data engineering, right? Typically, you need a team which can extract the data from engineering systems or the tech systems. Then there is this concept called transformation. So transform into a desired format and load it onto a system where you can actually do the analysis, and then set up the systems that allow that analysis. Like I was saying, right? The petabytes of data that we have, we need it to be available in seconds if I query it, right? So that requires a lot of tech to be set up. That's what data engineering is. Extract, transformation, and load is ETL. I'll just give a quick example of a transformation, right? So when a driver is driving on the road, we actually don't see the path that the driver takes. Typically, what we see is every few hundred meters, there is a GPS ping location. Okay, so we just get a dot which says the driver was at this point at this time, right? And over a period of time, all we get is a bunch of dots as the driver moves around the city. Now, if you want to compute the distance that the driver has traveled, right, you actually have to have a technology which connects the dots and says, hey, from 1.1.2.3.4.5, this is the route that the driver has taken, and the distance traveled is so much. So from a bunch of dots to saying that, hey, this is the distance the person has traveled, that is an example of a transformation that we can do to make the data useful for us. Okay, so that team that does all of that is called the data engineering. And then we have two teams which actually help in help in taking decisions. Okay, so analytics team makes humans smarter by using a combination of sciences, and data science makes machines smarter. Okay, an example of making a machine smarter is like simple thing as who picks up the order, right? It's not a very simple. There's an example I'll share a little bit later. It's a very complex problem, but the decision as to who picks up the order is actually taken by a machine. So that is data science. On the other side, how much discount to give to somebody, or how many drivers to be staffed in a particular city, for example. So those are decisions that humans take. And any combination of sciences which helps humans make a better decision is called analytics. Anything that makes machines, which helps machines make better decisions, is called data science. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about all of these. So what is data science and analytics? Again, this is the Google definition of it. It's the application of a combination of sciences, typically statistics, advanced mathematics. You can also say machine learning, artificial intelligence, behavioral sciences as well. Okay, cognitive biases, all of this application of sciences to help people or machines make better decisions across business. So that is what is the field. You can actually say using sciences to make better decisions. That's why I've highlighted those two things. That's what the field is. And how do you find good analysts? They're very difficult to find. So they're like super persons, Superman, Superwoman, because they need three different kinds of skills. First is statistics, right? They need a deep understanding of statistics, a really good understanding of the mathematical concept. They need to be a top class statistician. And second thing, they need to be consultants as well. They need a deep understanding of how business works. They need to be having the ability to just look at data, find the patterns, and generate insights out of that, and have the ability to convert that, convert the mathematics into actually a story where people can understand it. And the third skills they need to have is that of developer. They need to be really good at structured problem solving. The best kind of coders are also needed for it, and they need to be able to work on all this data in multiple modeling languages. Okay, so combination of statistician, consultant, and developer is what an analyst is. Of course, you can imagine that they're difficult to find, so that's why they're like super people. Okay, now what do these people do? I put 5 things here. You can just remember it by the first letter, DRIPS. DRIPS is what you can do it. And I'll go clockwise from the top right. First, you start with data itself, right? Actually, even before the data is created, there's this concept called instrumentation, which is you tell the developer who's making the app that I actually need to capture this information. Like, for example, on our app, we have the veg or non-veg button. Before that feature is launched itself, right? Somebody actually tells the developer that, hey, when somebody presses that button, can you please send us information back? Okay, that is called instrumentation. And once the data starts flowing, you have to figure out how to make the data flow, how to make sure that you process it properly, create data in a way that it can be useful. So that all that is the data part of it. And then there's reporting. So reporting is what is happening in the business. So you have dashboards, reports, scorecards, you can even email things. So just to figure out what is happening in the business, that's reporting. And then you have inquisitive, which is why is something happening in the business. So if a metric goes up or down, just doing a root cause analysis, a lot of experimentation, whether a new feature is working or not, which we call as hypothesis testing, just analyzing trends to figure out what is happening, or trying to look at the data by many cuts to figure out why something is happening. So anything where we say we are trying to understand why something is happening is inquisitive work. Then the next one is predictive, which is what will happen in the future, where you have, or what should happen, which is forecasting, modeling, simulation, optimization, machine learning, artificial intelligence, all of that come in the predictive thing. We actually also do a lot of strategic work, which is, hey, how is the company going to look 3-4 years from now? If I have big bets, how do we prioritize it? How do we structure our company? How do we make an annual operating plan or a strategic plan, right? Those things are also a part of what we do. So these are the 5 things we do. Drips, we get the data ready, we tell people what is happening, we tell people why it is happening, we tell people what will happen in the future, and then we also work on what should happen or the strategic part of it. Okay, so drips is how you can remember it by. Sangeeta ji, do you want me to pause for questions, if any, or shall I just continue?
Yeah.
I think
Questions
we can
are-
continue. Yeah, sorry. Yes, Ravi ji.
Yeah, you can, you can say.
Yeah, we can continue,
Okay.
Dev.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So
And we
we'll
can
do-
request the members, if they have any question, to post it on the Q&A box or on the chat box, so we can take it up.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Got it. So now let's take an example of how analytics was used in finding fraud, right? So typically, that's the mystery of the missing pizzas. So typically, right, our problem doesn't come as a very, very well-stated problem. So in this case, for example, right, it says a pizza company does their own deliveries. They don't send us whether an order was delivered or not. So orders are considered to be auto-delivered after 90 minutes. And very simple question was, could there be potential fraud because of this? And at that point of time, we'll be like, hey, what do we do with this kind of question, right? So of course, the simple thing is wherever there's money exchanged, there's potential fraud. In this case, money would be things like a refund that people are getting, right? So we can just look at, hey, was there a high refund cost for this particular company? And you ask that question, and yes, we figured out that there's high refund cost, right? So then the next question we ask is, okay, there seems to be a high refund cost. What could be the reason for the high refund cost? Or are there certain kinds of customers, like for example, frequent using customers or infrequent using customers, certain cities, or new customer versus old customer. So these are the kind of questions we'll ask them, saying, we'll ask the data saying, hey, where is this refund cost very high? Okay. And actually we figured out that a lot of the refund cost was actually coming from new users. So then we're like, okay, there seems to be a problem with new users. And then we can actually look at some of these examples and see what is happening. So what we figured out was, several new users would actually just place the order. The food would get delivered, and then later they'll say that, hey, the food didn't get delivered, and claim a refund. Remember, at the beginning we said whether the food got delivered or not is not known to Swiggy at that point of time. So because they were aware of that problem, so all they had to do was just claim a refund. And Swiggy would actually say that, okay, we didn't know if it got delivered or not. Here's a coupon for 300 rupees, and just take it and go. Okay. So we found like a lot of money was being lost just by the simple thing of Swiggy not knowing whether the order got delivered or not. Okay. So then what we did was we just said, let's just disable this policy. if somebody had a problem with the pizza, we'll say, hey, just directly go to pizza company and get your refund from there. And then claims immediately almost went to zero. So then does the story end here? Okay. People do fraud, and if one way of doing fraud is curtailed, right, you will actually see other ways of fraud coming up as well. So then the story actually didn't end there. So we just have to ask more questions. And then we realized that there was an interesting pattern that was happening, which is, again, these new users were placing very large orders with the same company and letting them go through in the sense that there was no problem with that first order. And the next order, the second order, would be a order with a large refund claim. And that was a very strange pattern that we saw. And we were like, hey, why is this thing happening where the first large order is going through, but the second one is having a problem, right? So then when we again looked at the data, we found another very interesting pattern. So what they would do is new customers would place these large orders, a lot of money, and they would actually call the company and cancel it. So which means they get a full refund and they don't have to pay anything. So Swiggy didn't know that, right? And because the value of the order was very large, our internal analytics would actually say, hey, this customer seems to be high value customers. And the thing with high value customers is whenever they ask for a refund, they get 100% refund. Okay. This policy was actually being abused to get extra money. So imagine this, you order pizza and say, hey, 2,000 rupee pizza, and say cash on delivery. So you don't even have to pay the money. And then you call the pizza company and cancel it. So Swiggy thinks that the pizza got delivered and it's 2,000 rupees. So it's a big value. And then the next order, you actually cancel it. Okay. And we said, this is a fraud, and 11,000 customers were promptly disabled. Again, like I said, story doesn't end there because there are a lot of layers to what we were seeing. So we just said, hey, let's ask a few more questions. Okay. Are these customers coming from certain geographical locations, right? And when we asked that questions, people were like, yes, they seem to be concentrated in some geographical locations. And then we said, hey, there seems to be a pattern here. Let's see if there are any restaurants in that area. Okay. So what we actually figured out was the second order with the refund claim and the third order were all being placed on a small number of restaurants. Okay. And these restaurants had very high refund cost. Okay. And in addition, these orders would be marked prepared and delivered very quickly. Okay. So basically what people were doing was the restaurant would create a fake ID as a customer, place the order on the pizza company, be branded as a high value customer, place a second order on themselves, which is their own restaurant. No food got prepared, and they would be delivered almost immediately. And so they notionally got some money, but then the refund was asked and they got 100% back of that refund, which means anything which the restaurant was supposed to get still goes to the restaurant, and Swiggy has to bear the cost. And then they would use that money to place another order on themselves and take that money also to themselves. So a legal way of, not legal way, it's a illegal way of making double the money that they would have normally made. Okay. And this was the kind of fraud that people were doing, and all because we kept asking questions of the data. And then we went to these restaurants and said that, hey, this has got to stop. If you continue doing this, we'll ban you from the platform. And that led to an immediate and drastic reduction of these issues. Okay. So as you'll see, right, there's so many nuances to how fraud happens, and you have to keep asking questions over and over again, and you will get more and more answers as you keep asking the questions. The story is not over, but at least we will get to sleep a little bit because of that. Okay. So that's one example of how fraud was used, fraud was caught. I'll just take a few other examples from Swiggy just to give an example, just to give you a feeling of how it is and the kind of work that we do, right? First one is what is called the assignment problem, which basically means which driver should pick up what order, right? Simple thing, let's just take an example to understand this. So if you can see in the image on the left, there are 3 drivers, driver 1, 2, and 3, and there are 3 restaurants, A, B, and C. So the simple thing is, find the best driver restaurant pair so that the total distance traveled is minimized. So so you have the distance between driver 1 and ABC, driver 2 and ABC, driver 3 and ABC. So simple thing, find the best driver restaurant combination so the total distance traveled is minimized. Okay. One way to do it is called the greedy algorithm. Basically, what it does is at every step, you just choose the best option at that step. So let's say, for example, you go from driver 1, driver 2, driver 3, top to bottom. So if you look at driver 1, you have 3 kilometers, 6 kilometers, and 4 kilometers. In that, 3 kilometers seems to be the best. So you send driver 1 to A. And now A is out, driver 1 is out. So driver 2 has a choice between restaurant B and C, which is 2 kilometers and 5 kilometers. So you choose 2, and driver 2 goes to 2. Driver 3 doesn't have an option, so they just go to C. Okay. So if you look at the total, it's 13 kilometers. You can also go other way around, driver 3, driver 2, driver 1. Same thing, driver 3 has 4, 3, and 8. The minimum is 3. You send them to restaurant B. Driver 2, 6, 2, and 5. Because 2 is not available, they have to choose 5, and so on and so forth. This is a total of 11 kilometers. The optimized allocation, however, is this other option where the total is actually 10 kilometers. Okay, every kilometer is a big deal for us because in 2018 we did 500 million orders. Okay, 50 crore orders, and even if we save 1 rupee from each of those orders, right, it's 50 crore rupees that we'll save. Okay, so every 50 meters is a big deal for us. And here, just in this example, we've saved 1 kilometer or up to 3 kilometers by just doing an optimized allocation. Okay, it's not like we have 3 orders, right? We have thousands of orders to optimize. So there are n orders, m drivers. So all this combinations, permutations happen. So we use mathematical optimization to actually figure out which is the best driver to pick it up. And there are not just, so what we talked about is the cost aspect, which is the distance traveled, okay, or the first mile distance, okay. But there's also other costs like the waiting time. And then there is the speed aspect, which is if you delay the assignment, right, which is the optimization, you do it several minutes later. So you accumulate a bunch of orders and then you can do a better optimization. But then if you delay, then customers get upset that they've not got a driver, and they may start calling the call center, and that's a cost as well. So the assignment delay is something important. Then if a driver has visited a apartment complex previously, they can deliver actually much faster. So driver familiarity is important as well. And then driver experience. You don't want people to be sitting idle, or you don't want someone to get too many orders as well, right? So that's another thing that we take into consideration. So all of these things go into that optimization model to figure out who's the best driver to pick up the order. Okay, so that's one example. I'll just take another example. I'm sure all of us have gone through this, where the driver calls us and they're like, madam, where should we come, right? So how do you avoid those kind of calls is the next problem. And typically, if you just look at this tweet, right, this person says, every time my order is delayed by 15 minutes because they reach a different place. Okay. Now we're like, hey, how do we solve that? We actually looked at the data that we had, right? And we figured out that some people actually put the pin in the wrong place. For example, in this case, the customer has put the pin at the red location, but their actual house is where the blue dots are. These are the delivered locations. So you can easily imagine the driver reaching the pin and they're like, hey, madam, I'm at this at the cooperative bank. And the customer would be like, hey, which bank? And they would say, hey, Bangalore Cooperative Bank. And then the customer would be like, no, it's actually not Bangalore. You're supposed to come to Karnataka Cooperative Bank, right? And then you have to go around, take a red light, and then turn around and go there, which actually is taking a lot of time. So the simple thing is, hey, can you just move that red dot to that where the green house is, and that itself algorithmically, if you can do that right without telling the customer, then we know exactly where the customer's house is, and then we can actually deliver to that location. So we used an algorithm called DB scan, or density based clustering, which pretty much is a very simple algorithm. What it does is it identifies what are called core points. So if you look at this example, right, any dot which has other dots close by, right, those are the things which are considered. So in this case, the blue dot, there's nothing close by, so that's called noise, and it's eliminated because GPS locations are not good at all. Depends on the quality of the phone and things like that. So that is noise, and it's eliminated. If there are one or two dots close by, then it's called a border point. So the yellow points have one or 2 points next to it, and the red ones, if you see, have at least 3 points next to each other. Those are called the core points. So what we can do is we can just take the core points and do like a center of those core points, and that becomes the customer's address. And that's a way of fixing the wrong addresses that people have put. So when we actually did this algorithm, you'll see the impact. The last mile time was reduced by about 10 minutes for many customers. Average percentage delay reduced by 5%, and it reduced the need for drivers to call the customers again and again. So that's another example of how address correction can be done algorithmically using analytics and data science. Okay, that's one example. The last example I have is how do we ensure that drivers are available in the high demand areas, right? We have two algorithms which run. One is figure out what are the potential areas where orders can come from. Okay, and the second algorithm is real-time prediction of how many orders are going to come. So how it shows up is the small pixels that you see, right? Each of the dots on the image, that is the hotspot identification, and the color of the pixel is the amount of demand that is expected in that area. And as soon as a driver finishes their order, right, this particular screen comes up, so they can actually see where the different orders are going to come from and how much. Like in this case, the driver can just come a little bit to the left, and there's a big cluster of red dots right there. So they can be in that high demand area very quickly, and there's a high chance that they're going to get an order at that location. Okay, that's just an example of how two algorithms combine to create this heat map, and it will help the driver figure out where to go after their order is done. Okay, so just these are a few examples of how analytics and data science is used at Swiggy to generate like those few paisas every order, which add up when you multiply by 50 crore orders, right? So that's an example of how we are doing it. I will stop here for now and see if we have any questions people have.
Well,
Yes,
sir.
I don't see any questions so far.
yeah, David, one point is that how this Swiggy collects this data. How you get this data? How?
Sir, it is actually part of the app itself. So the app, whenever something happens, they capture that information and send it back to Swiggy. For example, right, when you're putting an address, the GPS location of that address is captured, and it is sent to Swiggy. And same thing when a driver is driving, right? The driver's GPS location is tracked and it's sent back to us, and that's how we are capturing that information. Okay. And typically, all apps, every click that you do, every scroll that you do, so all of those things are getting captured at the back end, and they're sent back to the company for further analysis.
Mr. David, I have one question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether, basically, see, we as a chartered accountant or we as accountant, we use some data analytics software like ACL or Arbutus, or there are so many softwares available for us to analyze the accounting or finance data. So what kind of softwares you use to analyze this data, which is not in the, format, like you have said, you have an engineering team, you have an analytics team. So what kind of softwares you analyze, if you can share some names to analyze this data, analytics tool, basically?
Yeah. So the good thing is that there are a lot of publicly available libraries that are available. So for most of our machine learning work, we use the language called Python. Sometimes we use a language called R as well. So R and Python are the primary ways of doing it. So we also have a lot of dashboards. So dashboard we build using Power BI, which is a Microsoft Power BI software. And then for analysis, right, database itself. So we have something called Snowflake. Snowflake is our data warehouse. So we can write SQL queries and then get the data from Snowflake. So those are the softwares that we use.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I can just see a question in the chat. It's possible that the customer asked purposely to deliver to another address. Absolutely. So yes, it is possible. What actually also happens is people may have money addresses also. So the same customer may have an office address, like a parent's address, home address, all of these addresses. So when we run the algorithm, right, remember the blue points I showed? They are called noise because they're a little farther away from the core points, right? So we are actually able to identify different clusters, because if there are one or two random points, of course, you can't do much about it, but if there are 10, 15 points together, right, in one cluster and 10, 15 points together in a different cluster, we're actually able to figure out that these are two different addresses, and we can correct both of them differently, because the algorithm kind of is able to figure out what the outliers are. Okay? But good question, Vishnu.
Thank you so much, Mr. David. It was very insightful to know from the Swiggy perspective to understand how the data helps in identifying the frauds and even to correct the mistakes which the customers also put in for the locations and all that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It was great to have you.
Thank you.
Speaker. Yeah, thank you.
And David ji, your initial presentation began with such a wonderful picture of you in your Swiggy uniform, so that was a very great first impression. Thank you so much.
Thank
it
you
shows
so much.
your love for the brand as well.
Yeah. I can actually see a few questions in the Q&A thing also. Let me just answer that. Yes. Karthik is asking, there are many courses on data scientists. Which one is good? There are two answers to that. First is, they're all quite good, by the way. So the way I say it is, a good course is like buying a tennis racket if you want to play tennis. Okay. Without the tennis racket, you can't play tennis. So you have to do some course or the other. Okay. But the thing is, just having a good tennis racket doesn't make you a good tennis player. Okay. So you have to practice properly. You need a coach, and that is what makes you a good data scientist. Okay. So to which I'll say it's just like tennis. There are many good courses. There are free, there are paid, there are online, there are offline. There are a lot of these good courses. Just get any of them done. The important thing, however, is to practice using real world data. So real world data is very, very complex. So I would just say practice on real world information. There are places like Kaggle where people have put up real world data. And if you practice on the real world data, that's what so that is what is actual. It's like practicing the tennis. Tennis racket, you can just get anyone. Okay. Hemant said algorithms are written internally. Yes, we write most of our algorithms internally because the problems that we are facing, we are not many other companies face. So we have to write all of our algorithms internally only. And there's a question on IPO, which firstly I can't answer, and second I don't know the answer to as well. So I'll just skip that one. Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Sangeeta, on the ICAI Muscat chapter. Just great being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now we will go on to the next topic, which is on data privacy. And our speaker is Mr. Anand Deshpande, and I would request CA Digan to formally introduce the speaker on data privacy, who is Mr. Anand K. Deshpande. He's an eminent speaker and director of MasterCard. And during his presentation, he would be covering the topics of introduction to data privacy, effects of privacy on individuals, processing of personal information, privacy laws, global, privacy principles, is privacy and data protection the same, difference between security breach and privacy breach, and importance of privacy governance and privacy audits. May I request CA Digan Pandya to kindly formally introduce and welcome.
Thank you, Sangeeta ji. Thank you so much. It is my pleasure to welcome Anand K. Deshpande on behalf of ICAI Muscat chapter. Mr. Anand has completed his Master in Law in Information Technology and Privacy Law from John Marshall Law School, Chicago, USA. He has overall 13 years of experience in privacy and data protection domain. During his career, he has worked as a privacy attorney as well as information security consultant. Apart from legal domain knowledge, Anand has 11 technical certifications like Certified Data Privacy Solution Engineer, Certified Information System Auditor, Certified Information Security Manager, ISO 27001, ISO 27000 Foundation, Certified Ethical Hacker, Certified Hacking Forensic Examiner, etc., etc. Anand has received Best Student of the Year award as well as APAC Regional Council of the Year 2018 from Cognizant Technology India Services Private Limited. He has worked as Data Protection Officer for Cognizant Singapore. Prior to Cognizant, he has worked for HCL Technologies Limited and Secure Network Inc. US. Currently, Anand is working with MasterCard Pune as Director of Privacy and Data Protection Services and handling the global privacy operations. I welcome you, sir, and I wish you all the best, and over to you, sir.
Hey, thank you so much for introducing me here, and thank you, Isaac, the ICAI Muscat chapter, for giving me this opportunity. And this was a fabulous forum. I mean, I was thrilled to hear all the speakers talking about this data, and they have really helped me to set that particular tone for my presentations, which really helps. And maybe I would just request David, if you are there. I may sound a little devil's advocate here, but I really want to be very, very strict, or with respect to my profession here. So just excuse me if I do that. I'll quickly share my screen, and yeah, there we go. It's asking me for a password. I hope you are able to see my screen here. Right?
It's not a slide mode.
Sorry?
It's not in the slide mode.
Oh, it is not gone to slide mode. Okay, give me a second, please. Yeah, I hope now you can see my screen in the slide mode.
So basically, it is your presentation view. So I think you have to swap that view.
I tried to.
So you just click on the slideshow. So I think it will come then.
I'm sharing two. I'm using two desktops. So hopefully,
perfect.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so data privacy. So just now we heard David and our chief guest talking about data. Now let's talk about privacy. Now, privacy is something which really comes from your own culture, right? Where most of the time you might have seen that we as an Indians, you know, we have a tendency to speak everything what we know about each other, right? So if I tell someone किसी को कुछ मत बताना, the meaning is go and tell everyone, right? That's how the confidentiality and privacy works with some of the cultures, right? And with some of the culture, it's very very strict. Say for example, if you talk to an American that, hey, are you married, and the Americans say it's none of your business, right? Because it's quite private question. If you ask an European, he will give a nasty look at you and he'll just walk away from you. So privacy is something which is coming from a culture, and since this is a technological era, we have to make sure that whichever individual who is using that technology from any geography, any culture, you know, that technology is protecting the culture and privacy of that individual, right? So that is the objective with which all the privacy and data protection laws have been developed in the global world. Now let me go back to my next slide, so before I start. So as a legal disclaimer, I thought it's my own presentation, so these are my own views. It has nothing to do with Mastercard or my previous organization where I work for. So I'll just put my thoughts over here, and then I'll explain to the best of my knowledge and experience on all the concepts over here. Now, you must have heard recently in India there is a Puttaswamy judgment under which the constitution gave right, that is privacy as a right of a constitutional right, and it is right to be left alone. You might have seen some kids today speaking, "Give me my own space. I need my own space." Or you might have seen people that, "Oh, why you're looking into my stuff? It's my privacy." At the end of the day, right? So, what is privacy? Right, so that is something which is a big topic, and it's a subjective topic depending upon the geography, the culture, the religion in which you are, right? It's a big topic to discover, and we have to respect that topic by complying with the local laws for that. I'm going to play a quick video to give you a better insight. It's a YouTube video. It's an amazing video I've ever found in my research, but I'll play that video. But before that, a quick thought. What is personal information? Privacy relates to individual, and that's why it's called as personal information. So any information relating to an identifier or identifiable individual. Just now we heard David talking more about the geolocation, the order, the profiling of orders for coming from an individual. These are all nothing but personal information. And that's why I told David that is, you may sound me as a devil's advocate, where I'm going to come and on the top talk about some of the legal requirements when you're doing that. Now we have a consumer data. Again, it's a personal information. You have employee data, which is your background checks, salary details, health details, family details. These are all personal information. Then you have children, kids, who are buying patterns for the kids, that at which age you buy what kind of diaper, then what kind of dresses you buy for them. It's a boy or a girl, depending on them, what is your spending capacity. All these things is nothing but a quick personal information about an individual. Now, before I proceed on my next slide, I just wanted to show you a quick video. Please let me know if you can hear that by just saying a thumbs up so that I won't disturb anyone.
In the digital age, data plays a huge role in our everyday lives. It's present in lots of obvious ways, when we're shopping online, for example, and have to type in our name and address. But data collection can also be less visible. Take data brokers, for example. You've probably never heard of them, but these businesses specialize in creating in-depth profiles of individuals for advertisers. A single profile might draw on up to 1,500 data points. This can include a person's sexuality, browsing history, political affiliation, and even medical records. One US-based data broker, Axiom, claims to have files on 10% of the world's population. It's not just businesses, of course. In 2013, Edward Snowden uncovered a vast regime of mass government surveillance programs, opening a global conversation which is still unfolding today. In this video, we'll take a closer look at this debate, focusing on the related but distinct concepts of privacy and data protection. By the end, you should have a clear idea of how these issues differ and overlap, how both are affected by the digital age, and how you can engage with companies and governments to protect and strengthen these rights. So what are we talking about when we say privacy and data protection? Let's take privacy first. Article 12 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights treats privacy as a distinct human right. It says that no one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference with his privacy, family, home, or correspondence. Everyone has the right to the protection of the law against such interference or attacks. This is simple enough. Agreeing on what privacy actually means here has proved harder. Depending on the context, it can mean the right to freedom of thought and conscience, the right to be left alone, the right to control one's own body, the right to protect your reputation, the right to a family life, or the right to a sexuality of your own definition. There are other ambiguities. In legal terms, privacy isn't an absolute right. This means it can be restricted for certain reasons, for example, to protect national security or public safety, or if it conflicts with other rights, like the right to free expression. An example could be a public figure invoking privacy to avoid disclosing their financial records. And what about data protection? Contrary to popular belief, it is not the same thing as privacy. Privacy is a broad concept referring to the conditions which enable a basic foundation of human dignity and autonomy. Data protection is more specific. It's concerned with the ways third parties handle the information they hold about us, how it is collected, processed, shared, stored, and used. In other words, privacy is the big picture and data protection is one corner of it. Like privacy, data protection is also subject to limits. For example, when a warrant is obtained allowing law enforcement to access the phone records of a suspect. And while data protection is in some ways more clearly defined than privacy, how it is applied legally can still vary greatly depending on which country you're in. The digital age has created new ways to collect, access, analyze, and use data, often across multiple borders and jurisdictions. Unsurprisingly, this poses challenges for human rights. One challenge relates to the way companies use our data. The Internet's business model depends on people sharing their personal data in exchange for access to content, services, and social media platforms. While you might not pay anything upfront to go on Facebook, they still make money from you by selling your personal information to advertisers. By clicking Agree to Terms of Service, users technically consent to this model. But in practice, virtually no one actually reads them. This is a problem because no one knows what they're really signing up to, which creates opportunities for misuse. Another challenge relates to the collection of personal data by governments. Technological developments now enable governments to monitor our conversations, transactions, and the locations we visit. In some countries, including Russia, Brazil, Australia, and South Korea, companies are legally required to store this data locally for long periods of time, making it easier for governments to get information on their citizens. These measures are often introduced in the name of fighting cybercrime and terrorism. But without adequate protections, this data can easily be abused to target dissidents and activists, undermining freedom of expression and the rights to association and assembly. And these are just the technologies we have now. Emerging technologies like the Internet of Things, wearables, and artificial intelligence are likely to pose new challenges to human rights. As human rights defenders, we need to be prepared for these. There are many bodies and forums where privacy and data protection issues are discussed and defined. National and regional courts have a crucial role here. The European Court of Human Rights, for example, has imposed limits on stop and search practices by the police and on the amount of time data can be legally retained. At the national level, it's common to find a specific public body responsible for privacy and data protection. This can be a specialist post or an ombudsman. But the extent to which privacy is defined and protected varies greatly between different jurisdictions. For example, there is no clear right to privacy in the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. However, there are mechanisms at the international level. Following a UN resolution on the right to privacy in the digital age, the Human Rights Council has established a new special rapporteur for privacy, and various Internet policy forums like the Internet Governance Forum, the Council of Europe, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and conferences like HOPE and Sci-Fi also contribute to shaping the scope of privacy in the digital age. And finally, we have companies. The decisions of companies can also have a huge impact on data protection and privacy rights. For example, by building end-to-end encryption into their software, as WhatsApp did in early 2016. Let's look at two examples of privacy and data protection in the real world. First, let's look at the Apple versus FBI case. After the 2016 terrorist attacks in the US city of San Bernardino, the FBI asked Apple for the information stored on the iPhone of one of the suspects. However, Apple's operating system is encrypted and only accessible through a PIN code. The FBI asked Apple to modify the system to let them in. Apple refused, opening a lively debate on the right to privacy versus security needs. The case was almost taken to court, but in the end, the FBI found a vulnerability to crack the phone. In privacy terms, this was a legal setback. If the case had gone to court, it could have helped popularize the risks of weakening encryption for society and establish what constitutes a legitimate limitation on privacy by the state. Next, let's look at surveillance in Kenya. In Kenya, a combination of invasive surveillance measures and a lack of adequate data protection facilitated a crackdown on civil society in 2013, which was documented by Peace Brigades International. Many human rights defenders had their offices raided, computers hacked, and phones tapped by the government. One of the ways human rights defenders have been fighting back is by pushing for the ratification of Kenya's first data protection law, long stalled in Parliament. If implemented properly, this could limit the worst excesses of state surveillance. Kenya is by no means the only country to bring in surveillance legislation justified by security concerns. But this example is a good demonstration of how seemingly abstract restrictions on online privacy can have physical consequences in the offline world. So what can human rights defenders do to protect and strengthen privacy and data protection? An easy first step is taking digital security measures yourself. This can be as simple as using encryption and anonymity tools and encouraging your friends to do the same. Human rights defenders can also advocate for alternative digital business models, which aren't based on the extraction and sale of data. Economic pressure on the existing model is already growing. For example, over the last few years, the number of users using adblock software globally has exploded. There is evidence that this is already pushing companies to less invasive advertising practices. Engagement in debates at the national and regional level is, of course, crucial. Where privacy protections are weak, human rights defenders need to actively advocate for stronger ones. And even where they are stronger, we need to make sure legislation is keeping up with new technological developments, like the Internet of Things. Ultimately, if we want things to change, human rights defenders need to make these issues accessible and relatable by being more creative about the way we talk about them. When people see how data protection and privacy affects them on a day-to-day basis, they may be more inclined to engage with these concepts. In the next video, we'll be taking a closer look at freedom of expression, association, and...
So I hope this video was quite helpful to all of you, and and it is kind of giving a best insights as to how most of the organizations work, and what they need to do in terms of protecting individuals' privacy. Now, since we have seen how technology affects individuals, let's see how that effect comes to privacy of an individual. Now, when we talk about privacy, we classify the data into two buckets. One is a personal data, one is a non-personal data. And under personal data, we have a lot of other buckets. Say, for example, individual privacy, right? We have behavioral privacy, we have health privacy, financial privacy, location privacy, social media privacy, and consumer privacy. These are some of the quick buckets which we can look into. This personal information then further gets classified into two more buckets because it requires a separate and additional set of security controls to protect because it is more sensitive. So what is personal information? Right? Your name, your address, email address, government ID, your credit card, debit card number, IP address, device address, driving license, passport, all these things are personal information. However, the second side is sensitive information. Now, the word sensitive is literally sensitive because you might understand the effect of that. Say, for example, race, ethnicity. Nobody loves that they would be asked, what's your race or from which ethnicity you are, right? Because it's a very, very sensitive information. They people start thinking, are you trying to, make any kind of a distinction? Are you going to keep me separate, right? Something like that. Are there any bias? Religious beliefs, genetics, biometrics, marital status, or say sexual orientation. We have seen most of the people, asking, in a family, typically in a family, they ask, why you're not getting married? Is there a problem? Right? It's ideally you should say none of their business, but then these are sensitive informations. Gender, healthcare information, how much insurance you pay, what kind of diseases you have, right? Do you smoke? Do you drink? These are very sensitive questions from a health perspective. Political opinions. I mean, I don't think this particular clause requires any explanation. We have seen the whole lot of cases coming into from a political opinion on social media. Criminal history, trade union membership, these are very, very sensitive and it requires additional set of security controls from a protection perspective. Now, if you look at uh, India, what we have under the Indian IT Act currently is we have a section 72A, which has a criminal provision, which specifically says that in the course of performing any contract, any service provider discloses your personal information without your, when I say data subject, it is you at the end of the day, without data subject's consent or your consent, or breach in a lawful contract with the knowledge that he or she will cause or likely cause a wrongful loss. That wrongful loss is to be interpreted very carefully by the courts and the facts, right? And under civil provision, you have a 43A section which talks about some kind of a civil penalty for you. So if you see the chart, we have omnibus privacy laws almost in 130 countries. We have, especially if you look at a state and sectorial laws, you have US, which talks about HIPAA, you have GLBA, you have SOX, which specifically talks about, sectorial laws. Then you have limited privacy provisions coming into certain sections of the world, right? Then, and there are certain countries like 71 countries who have no privacy and data protection laws, right? Where that's the opportunity for the organizations to go and exploit, right? Moving on, when we talk about privacy for every organization, when you want to protect someone privacy, how that organization should work, what exactly they should focus on, first of all, it's a data minimization. What do you mean by data minimization? It means that use only that much data which is really required to perform your task. Say, for example, you are a chartered accountant, you ask me form 16, fair, I can give you my form 16. But tomorrow, if you start asking me, oh, are you married? How many kids do you have? It has nothing to do with my tax return, right? Because unless there is specific government provision which can give me a kind of a benefit, if I have a kids, I'm paying the school fee, it makes sense. But other than that, it has nothing to do. So have minimum information when you're processing. Limited purpose and notice. So when you're collecting the data, the first thing is you have to disclose someone. Why are you collecting the data? What is the purpose for that? Do you have a choice? Can you say no to that, right? Or can you opt in for that? And that is in the form of a notice or obtaining a content. For example, if you see any kind of a shopping mall, you have all the CCTV camera where it is clearly written that you are under CCTV surveillance. So by stepping into the mall, you are providing them a consent. So notice is already displayed, you are stepping in and you are giving the consent. In terms of personal data, since it is regulated, it has to be accurate, it has to have a quality. If it doesn't have, it is not accurate, then it's your fault that you are having processing an inaccurate data. You should retain the data only for a limited period, because storing data beyond the limitation period is going to cost extra, plus it is going to expose you to much more risk. Whatever data you store, it has to be secured all the time, and there has to be somebody in the organization who should be accountable for monitoring all these things. That is very much important from a global privacy principle perspective. Earlier, if you see, the word processing was very limited, that you take some action, right? That means you do at least 1 plus 1, that means it is processing. But that definition has changed because of lot many reasons, bringing the technology, maturity of world wide web and all that. So the word processing means you may view, that is still called as a processing. You access, that is still called as processing. Collection, usage, storage, organization, that means you just go to Excel and reorganize the data, still it's a processing. You keep a record of that, still a processing. You retrieve, processing. Consult based on that data, still a processing. Disclose it to third party, disseminate, share, adapt, alter, align, combine, erase, restrict or destroy, everything is processing, right? And when you do this processing with the personal information, you have privacy rules that apply to you, right? That is how the applicability comes into picture. Now, I'm sure you must have seen this slide in most of the cyber security related stuff. I think a few minutes before, David explained in a much broader manner that what data they have and how they use the data warehouse, because everything their industry is based on data, data, and data, right? So even hackers want that data. Hackers want your operations and gain something from you at the end of the day. So the security comes to you in the various forms. It may come in the form of phishing email or phishing SMS. You may get a social engineering call. Hey, your premium is due and you just pay this much amount so that we can release your bonus. Some people may have unauthorized access, which leads to ransomware attack or privilege escalation. uh, you may have a loss of asset. Now everything is coming in your cell phone. If your cell phone is lost, almost life is at risk, right? You have unauthorized disclosure by accident or with intention. And the biggest reason is, one of the important thing is identity theft, right? You pretend to be someone because web helps you to disguise your identity, and that's how the security breach takes place over there. Any questions so far in between, till time what I have explained? Anybody wants to ask anything?
There's one question in the
Yeah.
Q&A.
Just can you read that for me, please?
The question says, what is the law in developed countries and in India if information of a customer is leaked? How is the penalty on the company calculated?
Okay, fantastic question. Let me give the best example what is available in the world right now. So if you look at the world, you have GDPR, Global Data Privacy Law, coming into Europe, for that matter, a few years before in 2018, it was there, right? And it has extraterritorial jurisdiction. I'm sure you go just online and type a Marriott case, and the fine which is levied on Marriott by the European Data Protection Authority, right? It's very, very hefty fine, right? Similarly, you have most of the Singapore law is a very tough law. You have South Korean law is one of the toughest law in Asia Pacific, right? So that is something about developed country I'm talking about. When you come to India, I think I'm in my earlier slides I showed you, we have section 72A, which talks about privacy through a contract as a criminal provision. And you have your civil provision, where under section 42A, you have the way to go back to the court and ask for the penalty. Now the penalty depends on the geography also, and the type of grievance the person has suffered. So if you look at the European law, the GDPR, which is primarily known as, they have 4% of your annual turnover across the globe. So you can imagine if a company has annual turnover of billions, what may be the penalty? If you come to South Korea, if it is found in during the investigation that there was a criminal intent of leaking the customer data and gaining something or creating a loss for that individual, a big thing is that the directors or the individuals can be sent back to prison. It is that kind of a severe penalty. In India, you have three years jail and there is some fine which is decided by the court, and and under civil provision you have maximum penalty of 5 crore rupees. That's the only way India works. However, I'll just reserve my comment because India is still coming up with the new privacy and data protection law. Hopefully, it is still under discussion with the new parliamentary committee, and by the next financial budget, we may have that discussion coming up. I hope that answers question, Bhartesh, for you.
Yes.
All right, thanks. So let's see what is the difference between a privacy breach. And Bhartesh, probably you can connect for your question with this. What do you mean by leak of data? Okay. So what is privacy breach, security breach? Are they same, or is it correct to say that every security breach is a privacy breach? How do we interpret these two sentences? So let me talk more about that. So a privacy breach is something where your personal data, which I showed on your earlier slide, that your license number, your PAN card, or your credit card number, or say your health record, everything is leaked by a company, right? That's called as a privacy breach. A security breach, something your personal data is not breached, but the hacker tried to create an attack. However, the files on the system were kind of encrypted and the hacker could not get access to the original information of the individual. That's called as a security breach. But yes, when you say every security breach is a privacy breach, that may not be true. However, every privacy breach is definitely a security breach, right? So that's how the terminology works in the privacy domain. All right. Now, when we talk about privacy, there is something which is also called as, privacy by design, right? And security by default. So these are the two concepts that when you design any application or when you undertake any privacy program within the organization, you should follow the privacy by design and security by default at the inception of any project, right? Say, for example, you're collecting a data, you are processing a particular data, or say the data is in transit, like say for example, David just spoke about the Swiggy app. You are collecting the customer order and the payment through the Swiggy app. So when you're collecting the data, you should collect minimum data and it should have a security, that sensitive data, like for fooding habit. Are you allergic? There's certain question, are you allergic to certain food type? So that is also a sensitive data because it relates to your health, right? So such data should be always encrypted. When you're processing the data or it is collected through an internet, that is data in transit, it has to be encrypted for sure. It is going to stay in your records. Definitely it has to be under heavy encryption. And we're deleting the data, you have to follow a specific secure deletion method. So when you collect the data, you have to have multiple authorization mechanism, for the purpose of identification matter. Because I think that David gave one of the example where the hotel owners were creating some fake IDs, right? So that is something which is the best example, that how do you identify a user? Encryption, we talked processing, and on internet is absolutely an unsafe place, so we want to make sure that our data is protected. When you're processing the data and you don't want to show the real who is the real person, use the technique of anonymization and pseudonymization. You want to test something, don't use the live data, use the pseudonymized or anonymized data so that it doesn't create any kind of a loss to the individual whose data is getting processed. And you might have seen that, we as individuals, we have a bad habit. We go to a hotel and then we get our credit card printout once we pay the bill, and that particular slip, we just throw it away somewhere, right? And that's the reason the hacker gets an opportunity. If you see that it has a lot of data, your date, card details, transaction details, right? Date and timestamp, pretty much everything, right? So I'm not going to explain how hackers can use that, although I know it, but still, that's not the topic here. But then you should use the shredders for that, for such information not to be getting into a wrong hands. That's what it is called as security by default. Now, we heard about privacy also, we heard about security also. Uh, where is the overlap between them? Let's try to figure out. Now, when you talk about security, my main topic is more about confidentiality, right? But when I talk about privacy, it's more of a not just confidentiality, but also about regulation and managing or handling the personal information. Confidentiality talks more about privacy, that confidentiality, integrity, and availability, that is security talks about. However, privacy doesn't talk completely about all this, but includes something more than this, right? Because privacy requires all the privacy principles coming into picture beyond confidentiality, integrity, and availability, which I showed you on earlier slide. Where is the disconnect? Why privacy and security are not just the same? Because security is one of the framework within the privacy, right? Privacy has a lot of things: limited collection, openness. It has to be relevant. There has to be a limitation use. So for example, if Swiggy is collecting my data for ordering a food, it should not use that data for my insurance premium. Now imagine a scenario, an app which collects my food habits and they passes on my food habits back to my insurance company. Of course, my insurance company will look at my health and increase my premium by looking into it. How many pizzas do I order? By looking into it, how many biryanis do I order? Right? Something like that. Think of a bigger picture. Things, yeah. If I definitely order some salads or soups, insurance premium may come down. But again, that's a risky affair. That's why when two system integrates, when the purpose or the use limitation comes into picture, use the data only for the purpose for which it is collected. If you want to use it for any other purpose, you have to give another notice, obtain a consent, give the relevant disclosure, and then start using the data, right? That is specifically talks about privacy. Now, in any organization, privacy governance is something which is a very, very big pain, and people face a lot of complications because every data needs to be collected, needs to be mapped properly, right? So before we set up the privacy governance, what we should have, what homework we need to do, we need to have a vision and mission. Why we need to have a privacy governance in the organization? What data we are uh, going to process? What is in the scope for that matter? To govern the data, what kind of framework we are going to use? Are we going to use COBIT? Are we going to STOGAF? What kind of framework we are going to use? What is our strategy? It is going to be a centralized mechanism. It is going to be a hybrid mechanism. How do we structure our team to map that? And then what are the roles and responsibility under that governance, right? So this is a broader picture when you should look for it. And I know those who are into the audit of organizations, if kind of a privacy is within your scope for SOC 2 or something, maybe this is something which is very important and relevant for you. Sangeeta ma'am, I hope we have time, right? I'm not exceeding our time limit.
No, you can continue. We still have time.
Sure. Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now, privacy risk management. Every organization now we have governance program, but definitely there cannot be a zero risk. How do we manage the risk, right? So privacy risk identification is a very important task. Reporting that risk to the right authorities for making a decision is also important. Those authorities putting into a risk program and categorizing that risk is also another important task. And then we have privacy risk mitigation, right, which comes into picture. And this is a continuous cycle. A quick question which comes to my mind, which I will definitely ask, please feel free to answer on the chat or in a Q&A box, probably chat only. There are 4 T's in the risk management. How many of you are aware of the 4 T's? The word T. T stands for T or telecom. T. 4 T's. Anybody knows how we can use 4 T's for risk management?
No.
Anybody who knows can
any
post
attempt
it on the chat, or we
any
can allow them to speak. They can raise their hand. We can allow them to speak. Anyone from the audience?
Okay, I'll explain the 4 T's. Okay, so when you talk about 4 T's, the risk can be mitigated in 4 ways. First, you treat the risk. That means you put some control on the risk. That is risk treatment. Then you have risk transfer, something which you cannot accept, you transfer. Say for example, take a cyber insurance which helps you to transfer yours to a third party. Third is, still some risk remains, which is a residual risk, which you have to tolerate, right? That is another third T. And fourth, if none of the 3 T's work, you have to terminate that risk. That means shut down the operations completely. These are the 4 T's in the language of risk management, for that matter. Now, privacy risk management, there are buckets. I think the slide is self-explanatory. We have business loss, regulatory risk, and financial risk, right? So under business loss, we have loss of consumer trust. Once you have a breach into your organization, I'm sure all of you must have read the fantastic uh, you know uh, explanation given by Sundar Pichai in US Congress. If you have not heard or listened to it, my request would be, please go on YouTube and just type in the search Sundar Pichai before US Congress. How he has defended Google in front of US Congress when when the claim came before the US Congress that Google is violating the privacy of all the users across the world, right? Amazing. And the same for even Facebook. And right now, if you are curious to learn more, there is a whistleblower in the Europe regarding how Facebook is misusing the consumer confidence and their data and it is working against their Facebook's privacy policy. Amazing live debate going on in the world. Please watch CNBC. You will hear all these things on that, right? But yeah, coming to the risk management topic over here, right? You have loss of consumer trust, which definitely bring down your business. Maybe it may be resulting directly a loss of business, certain geography or certain countries. There is a cost of investigation involved for business, right? Regulatory risk, you have regulatory inquiries coming up, police, courts, everybody's right there with you. You have customers standing in the contract calling for breach of contracts. You have lawsuits starting up, for that matter. And financial risk, you have fines, penalties, loss of share price, loss of reputation, a big loss, I would say. So that's why privacy is very, very important for you. Now we talk about some sort of privacy audit. There's a documented and on-site audit. There are 2 ways in which you can do this audit. There has to be a criteria, some kind of a documentation, a governance process, or a standard operating process ready, and it has to be implemented and working effectively, right? The practices on ground, that has to be very, very important. What you should ask for when you talk about audit criteria, all of your auditors, I need not deep dive into this very, very deep, but yeah, on a high level, on privacy perspective, what's the scope, what is the regulation that's going to apply, are there a specific privacy standard like 27701 is a standard for ISO, right? Is it complying with that? Do you comply with the contracts with the customer? Say for example, there's security schedule, a specific type of personal information processing is mentioned in one of the annexures. You can look into that and confirm whether the uh, entity still processing that data or they are processing beyond that, the purpose for which it is using it. Exclusions, how exclusions are treated, right? Do the policies, procedures, system implement, are their trainings proper? Say for example, under HIPAA, you have mandatory training records to be maintained, and if there are an exception, what are those exceptions and are they approved by the right authority? Do you have the SOP for that, right? What are the practices on ground? Do you have records, audit logs, registers, interviews, or you have observed certain behavior on the basis of which you are making certain claims? So these are the ways in which privacy audit predominantly is getting conducted these days. Again, this has to be getting matured over the period of time, no doubt, but that's the way practice is going on. Now, as a chartered accountant, you hold a lot of data about your clients. which is a very sensitive data because it is their financial data. A lot of people come and definitely ask you in your practice, depending upon your practice, that, hey, I have X money. Do you think where should I go and invest this? Or you know what, I have X money, X expense coming from us. Do you think which investment I should break or realize to pay for my expense for that matter? So you have lot of data about your customers, and then hackers are definitely interested in the data, especially when it's a financial data, and when I can hold your neck in my hand. Definitely they would love to do that and siphon the money from you without disclosing their identity. So these are some of the ransomware cases which happened in India. I'm just bringing them for your reference, that as a chartered accountant, when you're in your firm or you're in your organization, if you're working, right, what things you should be aware of, how hackers look at you as a potential target and take your advantage of uh, you know taking the money in the form of bitcoins from you, and that's a complete ransom. And then if you go to a law enforcement, and it goes into a big loop for that matter. So I've seen that most of the people are happy to pay the bitcoins and get rid of, but trust me, this is not the right way at all of getting victimized before someone for that matter. I understand that uh, your customer data is very very important, but trust law enforcement agency. That's what I would quickly say there. you know this is another cybercrime threat where UP police has taken a tough task, and they have actually you know arrested the goons who are trying to extort the money from the chartered accountants over there. Now, again, one of the fantastic, you can do the Google search for this biggest data breaches from a privacy perspective. Domino's India, we had a biggest breach. MobiWik, we have a biggest breach. Facebook, Air India, Upstock, even we had biggest breach, right? Look at the size, the number of orders or the users who are affected over here. And trust me, it is not easy, because when the privacy breach happens, there is another set of legal remediation which you need to work on. I'll give a quick example, and I will be very mindful of the time. So one of the important thing is, when the privacy breach takes place, you have to do an investigation, right? Investigation is another cost. It has to be done by your company as well as a third party which you have to appoint as an investigator. Once the investigation is done, you have to prepare your report and then create a public statement for the media or the data subject whose data is lost, right? And explain them why there was a breach in your organization. Similarly, in any country, you have data protection authorities. You have to go and explain them on your own why this data breach took place. They may also come and investigate. For those who have suffered a loss over here, you have to give them some remediation. Say, for example, if it's a credit card company, you have to go and give them a credit protection for 6 months or credit monitoring for that matter, right? So that way, you have to give them a protection and keep the customer confidence. Demonstrate that, again, depending on the facts, that you have adequate security mechanism, but that the breach was something beyond your control, or it was a 0-day attack for that matter and it got breached. Then that case customer will definitely success. But any kind of a hiding of facts may affect your business for sure, right? So these are some of the examples for your quick reference for that matter. And I'm happy to take any further questions if you have on this particular topic.
I can't see any questions as of now. There was only a comment from Dr. Niranjan Shetty on the Tara model. I think that may be an answer to the
Yeah.
tease.
True. So, when you talk about security, you have CIA, that is called as confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And if you look at, that is when you wear a shoes of a security person from a privacy perspective. But when you are into a hacker's position, you have dad and mom with you. Anybody aware what is dad and what is mom? I'm not asking about your parents. I'm well aware of everybody's privacy. I'm asking you the acronyms. What do you mean by dad and what do you mean by mom? Do you know anybody?
No, I don't know.
Any other person? Anybody can think what's dad and what's mom? Just a wild guess. Anybody? I'll explain otherwise. No problem. I'll give you a hint. Keep CIA in front of you and keep dad in front of you. Let me give you second clue. Okay. The dad is exactly opposite to CIA. Exactly opposite to CIA. You can put in the chat. I'm happy to, take a look at chat also. Okay, let me give you the answer for that. Okay, so CI stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. That is exactly opposite to that. So when you say confidentiality, as a hacker, I'll go and disclose that data. So no confidentiality. When you say integrity, I will definitely make sure I alter that data so that it is useless for you. And when you say availability, I will always say access denied. Right? So that is what is called as DAD or deny access. So DAD is disclose, alter, and deny. But you know the fun. That doesn't go alone. That goes with mom. Right? That's a fundamental nature. So what is mom? Anybody knows that? I'll give you a hint. Okay. So you know dad now. What is that? Now to do that, say for example, for dad to take any action, you have to have mom with you. Imagine you are a father. The kid will go first to his mom and mom will preach something to the dad to take the permission. I think I gave a biggest hint here. No? Okay. In the interest of time, I'll tell mom also. So to do that doesn't go alone. When I say that, to do that, you require mom. Now, when I say disclose, you have the word mom is a motive why I'm doing it. Right? When you say alter, I look for an opportunity. Oh, mom, right? Oh, now the last is mom. When I say deny, I have to have some means to do that. So that is mom, right? So this is the way the strategy works between hackers and security professionals, and within the privacy framework that the CIA, dad, mom, they all work together. And as a privacy person, maybe you are a privacy engineer, you are a privacy counsel, you have to look at a bigger picture, because not just giving a privacy guidance that okay, as per the GDPR, please follow this, as per the Indian law, please follow this. That is not the only consultation we give, but you have to look into the implementation. Has it been implemented? What are the outcomes? You have to work with the business to find out the results and close these privacy and security gaps from a data protection perspective. Right? I hope dad and mom was quite helpful to you to understand. Right? So
definitely. It was very good. Interesting one.
All right. So with this, I end my presentation. Thank you so much, ICAI, Muscat chapter, for giving me this opportunity. It's been privilege to be here, and one wonderful way of presenting this. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anand, for being with us. It is a great and insightful presentation, and especially knowing those acronyms, hackers, that was even more interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, so I think we will, there is some question, is it? We just go to the chat. It's from Vishnu. Normally in India, all the shops ask the telephone number. Is it correct? How to stop this practice?
So that's why I said privacy goes by culture. I completely understand what you are trying to say, and yet our in Indian scenario, our businesses needs to be learning a lesson, as there is no framework to be followed, or I would say a rare enforceability you see in practice. That is the reason they follow these things, because for anyone, for phone number to पूछ रहा हूँ और क्या पूछ रहा हूँ. That's the way people treat it. But then what is the purpose? You should ask them, what is the purpose for which you are giving your phone number? Especially these LIC calls or these people, I avoid all these things simply. So you cannot stop this practice as of today, let me be honest with you. But yes, you can first ask before giving the phone number, for what purpose are they asking and where they're going to use that. Because I'll give you a simple example. I think many people had a COVID, right? So due to COVID, most of the people I have seen in my friend circle that, they started getting the blood test related or health test related SMS or insurance related SMS with respect to their insurance premium for COVID and all these things. This is scary. This is a bombardment of entire business practices for you as an individual. But then for them, it's a business practice, and this business practice is not governed purposely as of now, because there is hardly an enforceability, and then less awareness of within Indians, I would say, as to what are my rights. What are my rights? That's very important. So awareness amongst the people is very, very important. And that's how the privacy law will be very, very effective in the market for all the individuals within the society.
I have something to say here also before Sangeeta ji we close. So, Mr. Anand, what I have observed, when you open a share market account with any of the reputed brokers in India, you start getting a call from MP. There are certain hot spot areas from where you start getting a call that you want to invest, you want to. So I'm not sure how this data is being shared, stored and shared, and who shares this data. But is there any framework to stop this kind of things? DND is of course there, but then all genuine messages will also stop. So what's your thoughts on this?
So usually it's a practice from a lawyer's perspective that whenever you are contracting, first look for what is there in the contract with respect to your personal information. Because not only the bank, they themselves process your data, but also they have some kind of a third-party vendors who process your data. Now, if you see a practice in India, let me be very specific to India right now. Okay. So if you see a practice, our documentation is lying anywhere, either in our office or at our home. Even an Amazon delivery guy who comes to my home can read, oh yaar, aapne cycle kharid liya, mujhe to pata hai, this is 32,000 cycle. It quickly profiles you. He quickly profiles you. You know how worth you are, right? He knows, like just David gave the example. The rider or the delivery boy knows the area very well, the society very well. So he knows how many people order, how many times you have ordered from Swiggy, right? So he knows whether you are a high value customer, medium value customer, or a low value customer. So that is the algorithm which is built. And with respect to number leak, I believe that's a fundamental problem with India, that God knows how this number gets leaked and how do you get such calls. I really wonder, because I know certain browsers have that capability that if you don't have appropriate browser settings, some information which you are browsing on the website may get leaked or may get used in the form of kind of a log or capturing of data, right? And they can process it from backend. Say for example, now you just do a Google search on Chrome, right? Just go to Chrome search, you want to fly from Muscat to Mumbai, right? Or Muscat to Bangalore. You see the next day, you will get on the right hand side all the advertisements coming for your travel from Muscat to Mumbai or Muscat to Delhi, which is the cheapest flight for you. And then you can select that flight. So they use this advert technique for that. So that's why privacy is not just a simple one legal element, but it has to be married with the technology at all time, because technology is actually processing that data. So that is why it is very important that to keep some check on the technology through certain laws. That's why you have geo mapping laws, you have geo monitoring laws for that matter.
Thank you, Anandji, for answering this. There is a question related to the thing that you have just now said about the browser. The question is from Kasiji. He says, he asks, can you guide on the browser setting to protect the privacy?
It's very difficult, because plenty people use different browsers. You have Chrome, you have Firefox, right? You have Safari. What kind of browser do you use? You just have to go to specific settings, and there are privacy settings within the setting. Let me quickly. I'm using a Mac. I'm not much aware about the Windows platform. I've been using Mac since last 8 years, so not sure about Windows, but I'll definitely, maybe I'll pass it on, Sangeeta ma'am, the settings to you. Maybe you can convey them the settings, but it depends on every individual, because I'll tell you, certain sites, bank sites, some financial sites, if you do those settings, they don't allow you to browse, right? That also becomes certain times an obstacle. So how to bring a best harmony when you are browsing online is something to read and accept the cookies if required. So you have to be vigilant enough. So there is a browser called as Tor, right? That is something which is a so-called privacy browser. I've heard till now that whatever browsing you do is completely anonymous browsing, right? So that is one of the things which I can quote. But yeah, with respect to settings, it depends on browser to browser, and I'll give you some kind of a tips with that. Maybe I'll email you those things. You can pass it on for that. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. It will be helpful for all of us. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. It was really very insightful and helpful to know about these details, which not many of us are aware of. So now we have almost come to the end of the session. And as a token of appreciation, we have some e-certificates. So I think David G has left from the session, but still, as a token of appreciation, may I request CA Digan Pandya to kindly present the e-certificate. Yeah, thank you.
Can we have that certificate on the screen, Sangeeta ji?
Yeah, I think I am sharing the screen, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. David is not there, but on behalf of Muscat chapter of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, I would like to thank Mr. David for his time and for today's webinar. And it was very interesting to know how Swiggy is managing the data and how they are extracting the data and analyzing the data. I'm very happy to present this certificate to Mr. David. We will definitely email it to you, sir. Thank you so much. Sangeeta ji, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, CA Digan ji, for this. And now for the certificate from Mr. Anand, may I request CA Jim Joseph to kindly present the certificate?
Sure, Sangeeta ji. Anand, it was excellent presentation, simple, practical, useful also. On behalf of everyone gathered here, I would like to hand over the certificate to you, which will please accept. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Really appreciate that.
We will email the certificate to you, sir, shortly. Thank you. Thank you for your time and everything. So now we would formally close today's event. And for that, I would request CA Sajeev Surendran, Vice Chairman of Muscat ICAI chapter, to kindly give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sangeeta ji. Hello, everyone. Another wonderful Saturday and excellent session on big data ended very well. We understand now we are all looking for the physical session. So last 18 months we've been virtually connecting and eagerly waiting for the physical sessions, which MC is working on certain events, which hopefully you will hear from us soon. Let me give a formal vote of thanks on behalf of ICAI Muscat chapter, the managing committee, and the members of the chapter. Mr. Abdul Razzaq, CFO of Orido, who set a platform for the session by giving the challenges and the importance of big data in the telecom industry. So we thank him for his accepting our invitation and being there today as a chief guest for the day. CA Professor Challa Chada, our past president of ICAI. He always been very supportive and inspiring for us in our activities since his presidency, and still he continues with us, and also his support for our World Congress efforts for making a video for some promotion videos, and thank him for his presence and good words on us. I thank David Sakam for his excellent presentation on big data analytics and his experience from Swiggy and his the live case examples sharing with members. I'm sure the members definitely added value and knowledge from his session. I take this opportunity to thank Mr. Anand for his excellent, very informative session on big data analysis and privacy. I'm sure the session was very informative and added value to the members, both in practice and in industry. Thank you for your time and an excellent session. We look forward to hear from you more in coming years. And I would like to use this time to thank CA Gaurav ji for his excellent effort on making the video happen. It's an excellent video. I'm sure all members would appreciate that. And also I thank all the MC members for their effort and coordination to make it happen. I know what kind of effort it put on the video. Also, I would like to thank CA Sangeeta ji for her excellent efforts on coordinating, bringing these events to us. And this is not a simple task. It's a lot of efforts behind each session, so which we are very well aware of. So thank you, Sangeeta ji, for all the efforts and bringing it to the members. And also, I take this opportunity to thank CBFS, our local sponsor, for the continued support and all the necessary approvals and the coordinations from their side on time, including we are looking for the physical events, which hopefully will happen soon. Thank you so much for their continued support. And last but not least, the members who make each event successful. And thank you, members, for the active presentation, active participation, and their involvement in the chapter activities. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice weekend. Weekend starts in India, but here it's going to end. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Sajeev ji.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye. Take care. Thank you, Mr. Anand.
Thank you,
Bye.
all of you, for all the support.